I owe an apology to boxing. Terence Bud Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. is official. I got a video out. I'm not going to put the video in here and cut it all up, but I said this fight would never happen. And I feel like I had good reason to believe that it would never happen. Deep in negotiations, BLK Prime, David Avanesian, Crawford goes away from the negotiations. But here we are today. It is official. It's been announced. It's like a week ago at some point now. But I want to cover this fight. Among other things in this video, I'm going to do things a little bit different. I'm going to touch on a number of topics. Obviously, Spence Crawford, Devin Haney, Shakur, Tank Davis, and the general state of boxing as we see it today. This is your boy JG. This is the Punch Report. Let's go. Like I said before, y'all, welcome back to the channel. This is your boy JG. This is the Punch Report. I'm going to do a little longer video today, so stick with me if you want to hear some of the different topics that we're going to discuss. Let me know if you appreciate the longer form videos. If not, we'll just go back to the regular stuff. We've been having plenty of success there. Let's get into the content. So it's announced July 29th, Errol Spence Jr., Terence Bud Crawford, undisputed welterweight title of the world, 147 pounds. Now, on my channel, I'm going to make sure, I'm pretty sure I've done it already. I'm going to make sure that I make a playlist because I broke this fight down, very detailed in like 4 or 5 parts. I even talked about the resume between the two combatants to give everyone a good idea of how I saw the fight playing out. Now, with that being said, this year so far, I've had a pretty good year calling the fights. Check out the Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis breakdown. Then go over to my community tab and see the breakdown for Vasyl Lomachenko and Devin the Dream Haney. Very, very accurate, very, very detailed, no guesswork, and no bias. I know fans of boxing really appreciate getting boxing content, breakdowns, assessment that are without the fluff, the filler, the nonsense, the overly emotional delivery because you really like a guy or not. Now, before I get into the new development between these two combatants, I will give you just kind of a quick synopsis of what I stated now more than a year ago when I first started covering this potential bout. Just after your Dennis Ugas fight, Errol Spence Jr. defeats him via TKO. His eye was looking crazy. I immediately got on here and started making breakdown videos for Crawford, Spence. I was of the opinion that fight would happen sooner than later, but I'll get into that portion of it a bit down the road here. This is a close fight, a competitive fight. If I had to do just a real quick run through, I think speed, I think that's a break even at this point. Power, I give to Spence. Creativity and versatility, I give to Crawford. Jab, I give to Spence because he can go and get his offense a little more effectively utilizing the jab. Crawford's more of a defensive, measuring, pawing jab, trying to get the opposition to make a mistake as they come in so he can counter them. Footwork, that's a break even. A defensive responsibility. Both these fighters make critical errors. Errol is a little different in his errors. He's closing the distance. He's trying to get to a spot. He understands what he wants to do offensively, but the guy's throwing punches back at you. He often gets caught with his right hand down, which would be his lead hand. My lead hand will be my left hand, and he gets caught clean with good hooks there. But he's shown to be durable, good chin. Bud Crawford, at 147 pounds, likes to stand in front and trade against his better opposition, not David Avanesian. He's been made to pay for that, eating big shots. We know about the Aegis Kaviaskis fight. And then if you go back to 40, Yuriorkis Gamboa was able to put Bud on skates a couple of different times. Defensively, they both have things to work on. Going up against each other, it's going to be incumbent that they don't make these kind of critical errors against a puncher like Spence or an accurate puncher like Bud Crawford. So moving right along, I said raw punching power goes to Errol Spence Jr., but accuracy and delivery, a deliberate nature to land a shot on a specific location, I give that to Bud Crawford. I don't think he's really the biggest puncher ever, but he knows how to find a spot, and he's very deliberate when it goes to closing the show. Because Errol Spence Jr. operates more in a basic fundamental style of boxing, which is not a knock at all whatsoever. When he gets to stoppages, they come very, very naturally. I'm doing the right things repeatedly and consistently over a space of time, finding my shots, going to the body, working upstairs when I get the opportunities, as where you have Bud Crawford uses that tremendous vision that he has. He understands where to place shots very, very precisely and then get a guy out of there. So you give the accuracy to Bud Crawford, you give the raw power and thudding ability to Errol Spence Jr. And not to mention, knocking a guy out is one thing. I don't have a tremendous amount of respect at the highest elite level for David Avenesian, but Bud Crawford decided to just knock him out. He made a decision and knocked him out. That's impressive with brutal, accurate punching. With Errol Spence Jr., he has shown the ability he can knock you out one shot. Go to the body, go upstairs. Yeah, he has that. But if you stick around for a fight, you want to go 6, 7, 8 championship rounds, it's likely you'll be changed by Errol Spence Jr. He also has very damaging power. If he's not knocking you out, he's damaged you to a point where it might change the trajectory of your career. Bud Crawford, not so much. I saw the other day, it was on Twitter. I wish I would have screenshot it, but I didn't. But it was this beef going back and forth between, Bud Crawford, Errol Spence, who you rocking with, yada, yada, yada. And the individual was saying, like, Errol Spence didn't even stop Mikey Garcia. How's he going to do X, Y, and Z? Well, Mikey Garcia proved to be very, very durable. Mikey Garcia's career ended the night he fought Errol Spence Jr. Undefeated fighter, 39-0, multi-weight divisional champion, coming up to fight Errol Spence Jr., a fight that he begged for. Errol Spence and team, PBC, Derek James, Al Heyman, no one was checking for that fight like that. Mikey Garcia kept asking for it, finally got it, and got absolutely destroyed. Errol Spence landed over 1,000 punches, I believe, in that fight. Or threw over 1,000 and landed 700, some crazy ass number. But after that, you have the Sandor Martin fight for Mikey Garcia where he lost, and then he's doing exhibition bouts with Eric Morales, and his career is over. So perhaps he didn't stop him that evening, but he ended his career effectively. He beat the brakes off of Mikey Garcia and changed his life and changed his career. Context is important, so we put those types of things in perspective. Moving right along. Experience, a break even in my opinion. They both have long, illustrious professional careers. Errol went a little deeper as an amateur. He was an Olympian. Bud Crawford wasn't quite able to get there. They both have notable bouts against, top tier guys, Danny Garcia, Yordenis Ugas, so on and so forth. So they've been in there with the best of them. I did a whole video, and I'll put that in the playlist as well as far as resumes are concerned. I broke down Bud Crawford's resume, Errol Spence's resume, and as we move closer to this fight and the more I start to study the sport of boxing, this might sound obvious to many of you. The resume conversation kind of doesn't matter because the styles make fights. And we've seen this over and over and over and over again. Shout out to my man, LaShawn McCoy. I would appreciate if boxing media, especially YouTube media, and you get excited to see a celebrity, stop asking LaShawn McCoy questions. Shout out to him. Shout out to you guys. Stop asking my man questions. He had a long-winded diatribe that he delivered when asked about Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis before the fight took place. And he asked, well, who has Tank fought? It didn't really matter. Ryan's competition? I mean, first of all, the resume is better for Tank Davis. It's not even really competitive. But that's your measuring stick. That's a bullet point that you're going to utilize to break down a potential fight between those two fighters. The resume didn't matter. The styles mattered. Ryan Garcia was limited. Tank Davis is super polished and professional, very, very experienced, and has crazy power. That was an easy breakdown. If you go check out the video that I did, I told you, Gervonta Tank Davis will win the bout. This was April 16th, I believe that it was. What month is this? It's May. So this was April 16th, I dropped the video. I said Tank Davis, stoppage to the body, 6th round. Now, it happened a little later than that, but based on what I observed when I was seeing, when I'm breaking down the fight, yeah, there was no real opportunity there for Ryan Garcia to win. Now, I digress. If you move over to Errol Spence Jr., Bud Crawford, I did the video on the resume. It was a cool video. Cass reacted to it. Lots of comments. So the video did well, but ultimately it does not matter. How do these two styles gel? How does Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., when they come together in the ring, the things they're great at, the things they struggle at or have opportunities for improvement, how do those things come together? And I think the most important part of that conversation is the jab and the ability to fight mistake-free. And people say, well, fighters get hit. Fighters get hit. Shakur Stevenson don't get hit. They talked about, he had a great interview. He talked about getting caught to the body by Oscar Valdez. And Oscar Valdez, he's a pretty heavy puncher. But ultimately, Shakur Stevenson's winning that fight. It's so lopsided. You can acknowledge that was a good shot, but you're not losing that fight. Ultimately, you're minimizing damage if you're Shakur Stevenson, moving around intelligently, utilizing good jab, fighting off rhythm, landing clean counter shots and making it very, very difficult for the opposition. With Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., they're aggressive style fighters. They're hungry. They're prideful fighters, both intelligent though, but they put themselves in danger trying to get offense. I think Errol Spence is a little better at initiating his own offense than Bud Crawford. But if you get Bud Crawford punching, you know, if he sets his feet and starts delivering shots, that's really when he's at his best. He's a tremendous counterpuncher. But offensively, if you're willing to close the distance for him and allow him to just kind of deploy his offense, he's a menace. He's an absolute menace. My prediction initially in my final breakdown video for Bud Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., I lean towards EJ to get this done, either via split decision or late round stoppage. You might be thinking, well, couldn't it be UD or whatever? I think the fight's going to be close, but I feel like the later that it goes, the opportunity for Errol Spence to get it done increases. Bud Crawford's best opportunity, in my opinion, is rounds 1 through 6. Catching Errol Spence clean, very accurate puncher, so he has that possibility. Catching him clean on one of these mistakes off the lead hand. A sharp hook, get on an angle, followed up by a backhand shot, depending on which stance he's in. Bud Crawford does switch stances. I think he does favor being a southpaw over an orthodox stance, but that's neither here nor there. So I will likely do another breakdown video, much shorter, maybe 6 or 7 minutes, recapping these points, something more specific to these particular fighters. I think I'll leave you with this note. I will put it in the additional video. This fight was more 50-50 in my opinion. If it got done for the beginning of this year or late last year. As time goes on, I really do truly believe that it favors Errol Spence a little bit more. And on that note, Bud Crawford left in negotiations. If you're a Bud fan, shout out to you. If you're an EJ fan, shout out to you. Bud Crawford left in negotiations. He fought David Avenues on BOK Prime, made his money. This fight is happening because Errol Spence Jr. didn't want anything else. I didn't need to see his interview on ESPN to know that he stalled himself out. He made Keith Thurman wait for a possibility or whatever the case may be. He wanted this fight and only this fight. This fight is happening because Errol Spence Jr. wanted this fight to happen. You can get on here and argue and talk about X, Y, and Z, but that's a reality of the situation. Now that I've got that out of the way, super excited. This is a great fight. There's conversations circling around, is this a fight for more of the diehard fans? I just don't believe it. Errol Spence Jr. has been marketed so well. He does tremendous numbers. He sells out arenas. And at this point, there's been so much buildup on the internet, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Bud Crawford's family, Bernie the Boxer, his sis, shout out to them, putting out so much information. If you weren't checking for this fight before, you're probably checking for it now. And now that it's announced, it's really a wrap. And both fighters have not been shy about saying, this is what I think is going to happen. I'm about to body this dude, or I'm about to run through this dude, or I'm about to knock him out, or I'm about to hand out a one-sided beatdown. So I think that's all good for the sport of boxing. This fight will do big numbers. I think it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of 880,000 to $1 million. I don't think it will do as well as Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Tank Davis. That just speaks to their star power. But the fight will flirt with $1 million, depending on how the promo goes, shoulder programming, what they decide to do for a kind of like an all-access event with Showtime. If they get pushed beyond that, I might be wrong. But I feel very safe and comfortable saying 880,000 to $1 million buys on pay-per-view. One of those buys will be mine, but moving right along. It has been recently discussed that Gervonta Tank Davis and Calvin Ford, Coach Calvin Ford, shout out to those two. Shout out to Be More where you see more, and Be More where you got to be more careful. Those two individuals have stated very plainly that we want Devin Haney next. That's all we're checking for. I think that's great. I don't know how likely it is, but I think it's great. I have been on record many a time saying, I said this after the Lomachenko Devin Haney bout. Devin Haney gets bodied by Tank inside of 6 rounds, 7 maybe. He just gets knocked out bad. I felt that way before the Lomachenko fight. The Lomachenko fight essentially confirmed what I had been seeing. When it comes to Shakur Stevenson, he beats both of them. I think he beats Devin, that being Shakur, fairly easy because he's complete. Devin Haney, dynamic offensive fighter, looked a little bit limited against Lomachenko. Lomachenko is also a great fighter, but A lot of mistakes to the left hand. Looked confused in spots, especially the middle of the late rounds. And did a lot of thinking inside the ring we don't typically get to see him do. A good fight to watch, to see like Devin Haney at the height of his power, is a Jorge Linares fight. And he got hurt in that fight, but regardless of that, combination punches, super fast, super sharp jab. He just did everything right until he made a mistake, had to recover for about a round and a half, and then close the deal, got to the end of the bout, won that bout. That, in my opinion, is Devin Haney's best fight. He looked sensational against a great fighter with tremendous experience. Ultimately, what's next for Devin Haney? I don't know. I like the idea of Tank Davis calling Devin Haney out for undisputed at 135 pounds. And then if it doesn't fall through, the Isak Pitbull Cruz fight for Tank Davis. But now that I've brought up Isak Pitbull Cruz, I want to be very clear about something. Tank Davis fought on a Sunday, late replacement, Isak Pitbull Cruz. Shout out to both those combatants. If they fight again, barring a hand injury, it's not going to go the way you think. Tank Davis schools, possibly stops Isak Pitbull Cruz late. I got to give him credit for being durable and being tough and pressing forward. But Isak Pitbull Cruz is not the guy you think that he is when you're measuring him against Gervonta Tank Davis. Go ahead and save this clip. Download it. Do whatever you need to do. I'm not coming off that position. And I have not spent a lot of time being wrong in the sport of boxing when it comes to prognostications and how fights are going to go in a very detailed manner. Tank Davis is just much too good. He's too good. And you got to think about it from this perspective. You got to fight guys like Ryan Garcia or Hector Luis Garcia or even Rolando Rolly Romero if you're Tank Davis. They all have physical attributes that make things difficult for a smaller fighter in Tank Davis. And he just erases all of that. Then you have Isak Pitbull Cruz, who is a beast, come forward fighter, good speed, good power, knocking people out, but he doesn't have any physical advantages over Tank Davis. That's really that's an easy fight. You can will yourself to move forward and do X, Y, and Z. You have no lead hand work, no head movement. A guy with the skill Tank Davis will take him apart. I think that he will decisively, in my opinion. In the first bout, a healthy Tank Davis destroys Isak Pitbull Cruz. Don't at me. Just don't at me. I know one of the things that ends up happening is this. You see really, really great fighters, especially American fighters or Black American fighters in close bouts, and we go, oh, that guy won. He won the fight because it was competitive. We see these guys carve people up, knock people out, stop somebody to the body, do crazy stuff on a regular basis. And if you're a regular fan of boxing, you celebrate that because it's the sweet science. It's pugilism at its best. If you kind of like a, casual fan or a race fan, you hate a little bit. And then if one of these guys, like an Errol Spence, a Bud Crawford, a Shakur Stevenson, a Devin Haney for that matter, even though I think he lost in Lomachenko, Tank Davis, if they're in a bout that's at all competitive, then we saying they lost the fight. But no one can really break down or explain why, and I'm not asking anyone to. I'm just telling you what happens when you think about these style of fights with young, great Black American champions. And if there's any kind of hiccup or doubt, they were losing, it's funny business. Now, I'll wrap the video with this. I've still been thinking a lot about the Devin Haney Lomachenko decision. My feelings and thoughts have not changed. I reviewed the CompuBox numbers, and I know a lot of people say, oh, CompuBox isn't everything, and it isn't everything. This fight went to a decision. It was UD for Devin Haney. You got individuals scoring the 10th round where there's a massive discrepancy in punches thrown and punches landed in favor for Lomachenko for Devin Haney. But ultimately, this is what I hope for. Terence Bud Crawford, if you see or hear this video, I hope you win by knockout. Or I hope you put on a masterclass that no one has any doubt whatsoever. Errol Spence Jr., EJS, strap season, man down, big fish. I hope you brutalize Terence Bud Crawford in a way that you disfigure him and his family. They weep for him when they see him in the back. Because what I can't have happen with a fight of this magnitude for undisputed at 147 pounds, all the belts on in the four belt era, which is it's never happened, is I can't have this kind of fight be so close and so compelling, but also so clear that we allow one of these officials, one of these refs, one of these cats who's never probably laced them up or been through it. We allow them to say, oh, Errol won. Oh, Bud Crawford won. When it's clear the boxing world sees it a different way. And if you go back to Devin Haney, you go back to Lomachenko, the boxing world saw that a different way. 90+% of individuals feel like Loma won. And it's not Devin's fault. Devin went in there and fought. I said that. When I covered that, I broke it down. I said Devin went and fought his ass off. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. No hate on Devin whatsoever. But the boxing world champions, active champions, former champions, fans who actually know what they're talking about. There's a couple of people out there who actually know what they're talking about when they talk about the sport of boxing. I would put myself in that category. My channel speaks for itself. My predictions, the way I see or tell you how it's going to happen, I'm very seldom very far off. It just does not happen that way. I'm never going to make a prediction because I think it's sexy and unpopular and it's going to generate views and drive up angst. I'm just going to tell you what I think is going to happen based on how these fighters perform within the last 5 to 7 fights and how the styles match up. Ultimately, that decision's been rendered, so we're not going to worry too much about it. To the fans of these fighters, Omaha's very own Terence Bud Crawford, you stand up. EJ, by way of New Jersey, now DeSoto, Texas, Dallas, Texas, stand up. If you go on Twitter right now, people are talking reckless, like people you're probably never gonna meet. You gonna body somebody, and if you rocking with Bud, you a hoe, and if you like EJ, your mom ain't shit. Like they talking real crazy on the internet right now. Let's get to July. Let's get to this fight. May the best man win. Like I said before at the top, this is your boy JG. This is the Punch Report. I will put together a playlist of the breakdown videos. It's 4 videos plus a resume video. I'll put it all together so it's easy to find. You guys can blow through that content. Let me know what you think. I will do an updated breakdown video with a couple more key points that are a little bit different now. We got us a good fight on our hands. More to come. We out.